Looking for a fast way to track what's moving online right now? Head over to Qnotables.com. It's a centralized index of notable clips, headlines, and references being shared across the community, organized for quick browsing. Use it to spot patterns, pull links, and build your own research list. Qnotables.com. Browse the notables, verify the facts, stay informed. All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here. From the Q Research boards. China launches major military drills around Taiwan. China's military is running large-scale drills around Taiwan, including air and naval operations and simulated strikes. Beijing says the moves are a warning against Taiwan independence and outside interference. Taiwan's government condemned the drills and said it is monitoring closely. President Trump confirms U.S. strike on a Venezuela loading dock. President Trump says the U.S. hit a dock area in Venezuela that he claims was used to load drugs onto boats. The White House has not released operational details, and agencies have declined to comment on who carried it out. The remarks mark an escalation in the administration's anti-narco campaign tied to Venezuela. Southcom says Joint Task Force strike killed 2 suspected narco-terrorists. U.S. Southern Command says Joint Task Force Southern Spear carried out a lethal strike on a vessel it says was operated by designated terrorist organizations and moving along narco-trafficking routes in the Eastern Pacific. Southcom says 2 men were killed and no U.S. forces were harmed. AP reports the U.S. has carried out its 30th strike on an alleged drug smuggling boat. The Associated Press reports the U.S. military conducted another strike on a boat accused of drug smuggling in the Eastern Pacific, bringing the total to 30 strikes since early September. The report says the campaign has drawn scrutiny from lawmakers over legal authority and civilian risk concerns. SBA pauses annual funding to Minnesota amid suspected PPP fraud probe. The Small Business Administration says it is pausing annual funding to Minnesota while it investigates suspected Paycheck Protection Program fraud. The claim being cited publicly is about $430 million in flagged PPP activity. Minnesota officials have faced growing pressure to address fraud allegations across multiple programs. Reuters. FBI says it is investigating Minnesota fraud allegations. Reuters reports the FBI is investigating alleged fraud activity in Minnesota after the issue drew major national attention. The report notes immigrant rights advocates say fraud inquiries must not become a pretext for broad targeting of communities. Federal officials say they are focused on fraud and accountability. Viral daycare video sparks new Minnesota fraud investigations. A viral video helped trigger fresh scrutiny of alleged fraud tied to daycare centers in Minnesota. Federal authorities and media reports say investigators are checking licensing, enrollment claims, and funding flows. The core question is whether taxpayer-funded programs were billed for services that were not actually delivered. Trump renews threat to sue Fed Chair Jerome Powell for incompetence. President Trump again floated a possible lawsuit against Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, using the phrase, incompetence tied to renovations at the Fed's headquarters. The comments add to public pressure on the central bank and have raised fresh concerns about the Fed's independence. Trump and Netanyahu meet. Trump says they don't fully agree on the West Bank. President Trump met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and said the two do not fully agree about the West Bank. Trump did not detail the disagreement, but said he believes a solution can be reached. The West Bank remains one of the hardest issues in the wider conflict. Trump warns Hamas must disarm quickly or face severe consequences. Standing with Netanyahu, President Trump said Hamas will be given a very short period of time to disarm. He warned that if disarmament does not happen, there will be serious consequences. The comments come as international negotiations continue over hostages and next steps in Gaza. Reuters. Trump says he was very angry about alleged Ukraine attack on Putin's residence. Reuters reports President Trump said he was very angry after Russia's president told him Ukraine tried to attack Putin's residence. Ukraine denies the claim. Trump said the timing was wrong during sensitive peace efforts and said the U.S. would look into what happened. Reuters. Russia claims 91 drones targeted Putin's residence. Ukraine denies it. Reuters reports Russia's foreign minister claimed Ukraine launched 91 long-range drones toward Putin's residence in the Novgorod region and said all were neutralized. Ukraine's president rejected the accusation and suggested Russia was using it to undermine talks and justify escalation. Iran says 3 satellites launched aboard a Russian Soyuz rocket. Iran says 3 satellites reached orbit on a Russian Soyuz launch, in what Iranian media described as an Earth observation effort. The launch underscores deepening technical cooperation between Tehran and Moscow. Western governments continue to watch Iran's space program closely because of dual-use concerns. London's Met Police defends Freemason Declaration rule. As legal fight begins, London's Metropolitan Police says it will defend its requirement that officers and staff declare if they are Freemasons. The Freemasons' leadership has sought legal action to block the policy. The Met has framed the rule as an integrity and anti-corruption measure. House Democrats plan John 6 anniversary hearing. House Democrats say they will hold a special hearing on January 6, 2026, marking 5 years since the Capitol breach. Organizers say it will focus on the attack's impact and ongoing public safety and election security concerns. Republicans have criticized similar efforts as political theater. Reports highlight Soros family donations to New York AG Letitia James. Multiple outlets cite campaign finance records showing donations from George Soros and family members to New York Attorney General Letitia James over recent years. James remains a central legal figure in high-profile cases involving President Trump and other major targets. The filings are public and trackable. ABC. Comer urges Bondi review Biden-era auto pen actions and pardons. ABC News reports. House Oversight Chairman James Comer is pressing Attorney General Pam Bondi to scrutinize executive actions and pardons tied to former President Biden's reported auto pen use. Bondi has said she is reviewing the matter. The legal debate centers on authority, procedure, and proof. CMS launches Office of Rural Health Transformation. To run $50 program, CMS announced the establishment of the Office of Rural Health Transformation, designed to oversee a multi-year rural health program and provide states technical help and oversight. The agency says the office will coordinate federal-state partnerships and track performance across the program's timeline. Reuters. Rural Health Initiative will send at least $147 million per state in 2026. Reuters reports the administration is rolling out large rural health funding allocations starting in 2026, with a baseline amount for each state and additional funding tied to needs and project plans. CMS says states will be expected to meet benchmarks, with oversight and accountability measures included. Tesla cathode deal with L&F fades from disclosures. Reports say a Tesla battery materials arrangement involving South Korea's L&F has effectively disappeared from recent disclosures, raising questions about supply plans and contract status. Neither side has provided a full public explanation. Markets are watching for what it signals about sourcing and demand. CIA site Violet black site reporting resurfaces in Europe. Past reporting about a CIA detention site in Lithuania, sometimes referred to as Site Violet, has resurfaced in online discussion. The issue ties back to earlier investigations and allegations about post-9/11 detention programs. Any new official confirmation would need to come from courts or governments. Mexico. Journalist faces terrorism and organized crime charges over reporting. In Mexico, a local crime reporter is facing terrorism and organized crime charges in a case that has triggered backlash from press freedom advocates. Critics argue the prosecution risks criminalizing journalism. Authorities have not backed down, and the case is being closely watched nationwide. White House says Trump had a positive call with Putin on Ukraine. The White House said President Trump held what it called a positive call with Russian President Vladimir Putin about Ukraine. The call came as the U.S. continues separate engagements with Ukraine's leadership. Officials have not released a full readout of commitments or timelines. Ireland plans to push EU-wide ID-verified social media accounts. Ireland's leadership says it plans to use its upcoming EU presidency to push for ID-verified social media accounts across the bloc. Supporters say it could reduce anonymous abuse and foreign influence. Critics warn it could harm privacy and lawful anonymous speech. Reports. Rose Lake Capital scrubs names from its website amid scrutiny. Reports say Rose Lake Capital, tied to Repener Ilhan Omar's husband, removed the names of multiple officers and advisors from its website. The change is drawing attention because it coincides with broader scrutiny surrounding Minnesota fraud investigations. The firm has not publicly detailed why the site changed. Illinois investigates public employees over improper pandemic-era PPP loans. Reports citing state investigations say roughly 400 public employees in Illinois are being scrutinized for improperly obtaining PPP loans meant for small businesses during COVID. Investigators are checking eligibility, business claims, and documentation. Officials say improper loans can trigger repayment demands and criminal referrals.
At shop.isawaya.com, everything you buy supports Qnotables, the place where people talk freely no matter what. Check out our Qn Honey Pot, a jar of yummy honey that's as strong as your voice. Put it on toaster and tea. It's not just honey, it's freedom in every bite. Then there's Qn Butter, a smooth handmade skin cream that makes you feel good while you fight for what's right. Awesome wood and pieces for display only. Hang them up or set them out. They're for showing off Qn's tough spirit. Want to help even more? Get a proto membership. So go to shop.isawaya.com now and grab some goodies. Help Qnotables keep free speech alive, and let's keep the ideas flowing loud and free.
All reports can be found on Q Research or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Boards. Trump says Ukraine peace deal is closer than ever after Zelensky meeting President Trump met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Florida and said a peace deal is closer than ever, but tough issues remain. Zelensky said talks made progress while key disputes, territory and security guarantees, are still unresolved. Both sides signaled more work ahead as fighting continues on the ground. U.S. proposal includes 15-year security guarantee for Ukraine. Ukraine's president says the United States has proposed a 15-year security guarantee as part of a developing peace plan. Zelensky said he welcomes the offer, but would prefer a longer commitment to deter future Russian attacks. Key issues still include military withdrawals and the status of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Kremlin. Ukraine must withdraw from remaining Donbas areas for peace. The Kremlin said Ukraine would need to withdraw troops from the parts of Donbas it still controls in order to reach peace, warning that failure to reach a deal could lead to additional territorial losses. Russian officials said more contact is expected after recent Trump-Putin communications. Ukraine has not accepted Russia's territorial demands. Trump says he had a very productive call with Putin. President Trump said he had a good and very productive telephone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin ahead of the Trump-Zelensky meeting. Russia confirmed the call occurred, but did not release full details. The call comes as diplomatic activity increases around a potential framework to end the war. New Jersey. Mid-air helicopter crash leaves one dead. Officials say 2 helicopters collided mid-air over Hamilton Municipal Airport in southern New Jersey, killing one pilot and critically injuring the other. The FAA and NTSB are investigating. Video from the scene showed one helicopter spiraling down before a fireball on impact. Both aircraft were small Enstrom helicopters. Pentagon watchdog. Billions in Israel aid not properly tracked. A Pentagon Inspector General report found the Department of Defense did not properly track significant portions of military support sent to Israel after the October 7, 2023 attacks. The report cites gaps in documentation and monitoring requirements. Defense officials say accountability is harder in active combat conditions, but the watchdog is calling for stronger controls. Charlottesville ends. License plate camera pilot over privacy concerns. Charlottesville, Virginia is ending its pilot program using automated license plate reader cameras. City leaders cited privacy and data sharing concerns, including worries about how the information could be accessed beyond local law enforcement. The city says the cameras will be removed as the pilot expires. Trump to host Netanyahu for talks on next phase of Gaza plan. President Trump is set to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago to discuss the next steps in a multi-phase Gaza ceasefire plan. Reporting indicates the agenda includes Gaza governance and security, Hezbollah-related tensions, and Iranian military activity. The plan's next phase remains disputed, with major questions about enforcement and disarmament. Report: Netanyahu scheduled to meet Rubio before Trump meeting. Israeli reporting says Prime Minister Netanyahu is expected to meet Secretary of State Marco Rubio before sitting down with President Trump. The talks are expected to focus on Gaza, Lebanon, and broader regional security. The meetings come as negotiations face pressure points on hostages, crossings, and the future governance of Gaza. U.S. strikes Islamic State camps in Nigeria. U.S. forces carried out strikes on Islamic State camps in Nigeria, with administration officials framing the operation as part of counter-terror policy. The strikes drew attention because of the location and the wider security situation in the region. Details on damage and casualties were not fully released in initial public reporting. Russia sentences former diplomat for selling secrets to U.S. intelligence. Russia's security service says a former diplomat was convicted of treason and sentenced to a penal colony for selling secrets to U.S. intelligence. Russian state-linked reporting says the case involved classified information and an arrest in a prior year. The United States has not confirmed details of the allegations in Russian court filings. Pentagon expands internal Gen AI platform with XAI integration. The Department of War announced plans to integrate XAI tools into its internal GenAI.mil platform, targeting initial deployment in early 2026. The goal is to expand secure generative AI access for military and civilian personnel handling controlled, unclassified information. Officials say the move is meant to speed routine workflows while maintaining security controls. Grassley sets deadline for Anthony Weiner laptop review. Record Senator Chuck Grassley set a deadline of December 29, 2025 for federal agencies to provide records, including a report titled The Anthony Weiner Laptop Review for Communications Pertinent to Mid-Year Exam, dated November 15, 2016. Grassley says the request is tied to congressional oversight of prior DOJ and FBI actions connected to the Clinton email investigation. Thailand and Cambodia agree to consolidate ceasefire in China talks. Thailand and Cambodia agreed to gradually consolidate a ceasefire after weeks of border clashes that killed over 100 people and displaced hundreds of thousands. The announcement followed trilateral talks with China. Officials emphasized rebuilding trust and avoiding renewed fighting as both sides continued diplomatic engagement. U.S. welcomes Cambodia-Thailand ceasefire and urges full compliance. The U.S. State Department welcomed the ceasefire announcement between Cambodia and Thailand and urged both countries to fully honor the agreement. Washington framed the truce as a key step to stop hostilities and support long-term stability along the border as diplomatic talks continue. Pentagon's 2025 AI contracts highlight push to integrate commercial AI. Reporting on Defense Department procurement shows multiple major AI vendors received contracts in 2025 as the Pentagon accelerates adoption of commercial AI for national security missions. The effort focuses on operational workflows, intelligence support, and enterprise use, while officials continue to debate governance and risk controls. DHS claims more than 2.5 million illegal aliens have left the U.S. in under a year. DHS released a statement claiming more than 2.5 million illegal aliens have left the United States in less than a year under current enforcement and voluntary departure efforts. The department points to increased interior enforcement and incentives for self-departure, while broader immigration numbers remain contested in public debate. Sudan. Drone strike reported in West Darfur capital, casualties reported. Local reporting from Sudan says at least 17 people were killed in drone strikes in El Geneina, the capital of West Darfur. The incident is part of a wider pattern of attacks as conflict persists. Details remain fluid, with limited independent access to confirm attribution and full casualty count. Russia hits Ukraine with heavy strikes as peace talks continue. As diplomacy continues, reports indicate Russia carried out heavy strikes on Ukraine, including Kyiv, while both sides discuss possible paths to a ceasefire. Observers warn that battlefield pressure can shape negotiation positions. Ukraine continues to request durable security guarantees before making territorial concessions. Barna reports Gen Z and millennials now lead in regular church attendance. New survey reporting from Barna indicates Gen Z and millennials show the highest levels of regular church attendance compared to older generations in their dataset. Analysts caution that other surveys show long-term national decline, but the finding suggests a notable shift in who is most consistently attending. FCC action tightens future authorizations for certain foreign-made drone equipment. Industry reporting says the FCC added certain foreign-made drones and components to a covered list affecting future equipment authorizations. Existing, previously authorized systems remain legal to operate, but the move could influence procurement, compliance, and supply chains for drone operators and manufacturers. Peace talks. Next Trump-Putin contact expected soon, Kremlin signals. Russian officials indicated further high-level contact is expected soon after recent Trump-Putin communication and Trump's meeting with Zelensky. Moscow's public position emphasizes territorial and military conditions. Ukraine continues to prioritize guarantees and a sustainable ceasefire framework before any referendum or concessions. Ukraine humanitarian strain persists in frontline regions as war enters another year. Humanitarian reporting continues to show food insecurity and strained services in parts of Ukraine closest to the front lines. Aid groups cite disrupted supply chains and displacement. Officials say sustained access and security are required for large-scale relief, especially through winter and into the next phase of negotiations.
Every voice matters. The power of free speech is more important than ever. Imagine a place where you can share your thoughts freely, explore new ideas, and engage in meaningful conversations anonymously. With online anonymity, you can express yourself without fear of judgment. It's about freedom, creativity, and connection. Join the conversation that matters. Embrace your voice. Celebrate your freedom. Visit 8kun.top today. That's 8kun.top.
That's all for now. Stay alert, stay informed, and never hand your thinking over to anyone on a screen, including me. God bless you, God bless our troops, and God bless the United States